combination inside by Riddick. He seems to shed a little of the 8 months worth of ring rust. Golota matches punch for punch against Bowe. Line, Kelly's watching upstairs to see if Bowe holds and hits. Now Kelly comes back and tells Golota, landing with a right and a left himself. Golota turns Bowe's
around with that kind of experienced fighter.
Golota with a solid low blow.
Well, he's already deserted that tactic. Now he's going to continue to do it.
You saw Golota measure Bowe for the right hand and then missed it. Another low blow. This is a bad one. And Wayne Kelly is going to have to give Bowe a timeout. And there's the tee for the timeout. Body, he's done too little of that in this round. Golota starting to fall in love with his ability to hammer Bowe up top, and now I'm careful about this stuff. Bowe landed an uppercut finally. 1 point. Just hammering it. That was another low blow. Down goes Bowe, and that's it.
It's time to someone that understands that you're going to have to keep the rules in this business.
And now there's a fight in the ring that's been started by some of Bowe's handlers who went after Lou Duva, and somebody's going to get hurt in there. Somebody's going to get hurt. And there are more people trying to go in. And
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. They'll stop it. Don't. Get back. Go back where you'll see the tongue. Get on back.
My microphone got knocked off my head.
Don't do it, son. Don't do that.
There's danger all over the place here. This is a very desperate situation. Lou Duva's in trouble. Lou Duva's in trouble on the ring mat. Duva's down and they're lifting Duva out of the ring.
They're going to cool it out.
Duva trying to help his dad out. This is just an awful looking situation in there.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Wait a minute. It'll be okay.
George Foreman trying to be the peacemaker. What are you doing? What are you doing, guys? What are you going to accomplish in there?
Look.
Now the fight has spread off the ring mat. George Foreman doing his best to stop it. 2 more guys going into the ring.
Where is he, though? I can do. What do they want me to do? Things are beginning to quiet down now. I'm under the impression that a lot of Bowe's friends or would-be friends may have stormed the ring in protest over those low blows, the blows that may indeed have saved the fight, and now it's for Bowe, and now the riot in the ring flares up again. Meanwhile, we're all wondering where Lou Duva is and how he is.
His wife is right there in that ring with her children.
Well, I don't know what you're seeing on camera because I don't have a monitor. But I can say that in 21 years of reporting as a sports reporter and a news anchor, I've never been involved in a more personally terrifying situation than that one. This ring has been stormed by thugs and hooligans. Obviously, emotions were flowing high on both sides. We're very concerned about the status of Lou Duva, who appeared to be in extremely dire physical straits. He was taken away on a stretcher. In fact, Duva's being taken out on a gurney right now, and we hope that they can get it through the crowd And it appears to us that Lou is moving his head. Yes, in fact, he's lifting his head up off the gurney, so he's obviously conscious. That's a very good sign. If you follow boxing, you know that Lou has had coronary difficulties within the past year. It's of extreme importance to his life that they get him out of there. We're told that police are being knocked down at ringside, and that police have been thrown out of the ring by some of the thugs who are in there conducting this ongoing riot. It happened right in front of us on our side of the ring, and it appeared to begin when somebody raced across the ring from Bowe's corner area into the Golota corner area, apparently for the purpose of attacking Golota after the last low blow and the disqualification. And now the riot has spread to the far side of the ring, and I see some people who are jumping on top of people at ringside and beating people with chairs. Larry, what do you see down there?
Well, I don't see anything except a lot of energy, bodies being thrown around, people watching, trying to see what's, who these last of the hooligans are who insist on imposing themselves on what is supposed to be organized mayhem. We have disorganized mayhem in the ring at this moment.
Yeah. Well, this kind of scene took place after the first Bowe Holyfield fight as well. And maybe it's just a coincidence that the same fighter was involved, but it's a black mark on the sport. This has been an extremely ugly scene so far, and it continues at ringside, where now the riot has moved down to floor level. Now we're told that Riddick Bowe is still a part of that crowd down there, and they're trying to escort Bowe to the locker room, and they've gotten him into the tunnel area. There's a melee of people surrounding Riddick, and now he's into the tunnel area and out of harm's way. Where's Golota? Does anybody know where Golota is?
I can't see Golota at all. I don't, basically I'm standing here and watching like everybody else and seeing about 10% of what really is going on. I find myself wondering what Riddick Bowe was doing down in there. Golota was smart enough to get out of here, although I assume he was the target of some of these angry Bowe fans. But they ought to be, thankful for what happened, because Bowe looked like he was on his way
George Foreman
to losing the fight, to losing his stature and status in prize fighting up until the time that Golota just couldn't control that left hand, George.
And I think it was really an accident. He's fighting a taller guy. He's not accustomed to it. His waist is wet real high. It wasn't intentional. He's winning the fight. There are a lot of people upset about the way that thing went. Yeah. And I'm sorry to have to show off like this.
Well, I'll tell you.
Lou Dupa's a nice man. He shouldn't have to.
Hey, George.
Yes.
I want to thank you for helping to keep us safe. Obviously, our viewers didn't see it, but George Foreman protected Larry Merchant and me from a lot of harm there at ringside. He kept at least 2 or 3 guys out of the ring by himself, and I pin a big Medal of Honor on George tonight. He did a big service for Larry and me and the rest around us at ringside, and for a lot of people who were over on our side of the ring. Thank you, George, for your forceful and honorable presence tonight.
The only thing I know that may have been comparable, but in a different situation, and it's flaring up again now behind us. Another riot. Guys jumping over chairs.
Riots and fights are breaking out at ringside with no police in sight. Impossible to imagine what's going to be done to restore order here, but right now there are no police in sight as young men of all descriptions go hard against each other at ringside. Well, in case you've just joined us, you're looking at the aftermath of an explosive and all too unfortunately explosive event.
Jim, I'm with Roger Bloodworth, who is the trainer.
All right, Larry, go ahead.
Andrew Golota. Roger, how did this start?
I think it started with an unintentional low blow. Andrew has a habit of looping his punches, and Bowe kept pulling his head down. He hit Andrew behind the head 3 or 4 times. Hit him a couple times low. It was only one time. I think they got scared.
But your fighter clearly was in the wrong for landing so many low blows. Don't you agree?
Bowe was in the wrong, too, for landing behind the head and landing low blows. I'm not going to argue who started it. I'm not saying it's right. It happened. But this is a disgrace.
What happened with Lou? Was he hit or was it his heart?
He was hit, but he grabbed his chest. In one round he did, in the second round, and I told him, not to come up anymore because I didn't know whether it was his heart or if somebody had thrown something or what it was, but I didn't want him up in the ring anymore because I didn't want him to get hurt.
All right, other than this, what do you think of Golota's performance? What was he doing in there that frustrated?
Well, I think he was hitting him. He has a good jab. He's got good power. He clearly rocked Bowe 2 or 3 times, had him going, and I think everything he was doing was frustrating him. I think that's why Bowe, I'm not saying he didn't get hit low, but I think he put on a little bit of an act. He could have got up.
All right, thank you very much.
Well, there's a part of the scene at ringside, and we'll do the best we can to sum up this calamitous occasion. Once again, Andrew Golota is disqualified. Riddick Bowe emerges without accepting the loss that he might have been headed toward had this fight not been marred by low blows. We'll be back to try to collect ourselves and see what's going on here. But first, let's look ahead to some upcoming programming here on HBO. We welcome you back to what has to be seen as one of the most bizarre occasions in more than 2 decades of boxing coverage here on HBO. Apparently fireworks going on behind me. Many more of New York's finest have been rushed in off the streets of New York to try to bring order and control here in Madison Square Garden. Just to recap, through a long and eventful day, the possibility existed for several hours that this fight between Riddick Bowe and Andrew Golota might not take place because of a discrepancy, at least a discrepancy as Golota and his people saw it in the contract, which ultimately required him to fight 12 rounds instead of the 10 rounds that he believed he had agreed to fight. The situation was resolved, apparently, when $50,000 more were pushed Golota's way. So he came in tonight with those extra 50 grand in his jeans after a long day of stress to enter this big occasion in which he was given virtually no chance to beat Riddick Bowe. And yet, through the first 6 rounds, Golota dominated the action in the fight. And that dominance was marred only by the fact that Golota was repeatedly penalized for low blows, justifiably and correctly penalized for landing several brutal low blows during the fight. Wayne Kelly had deducted 3 points from Golota for low blows, each one an entirely proper deduction, giving Golota as many chances as he possibly could to stay in the fight. Finally, in the 7th round, as Golota battered Bowe up top, landing lefts and rights with abandon, he once again went downstairs and landed yet another crushing low blow. And at that moment, again, quite properly in our view, referee Wayne Kelly stopped the fight, disqualified Golota, and awarded victory to Bowe. At that moment also, a riot broke out as some of the men from Bowe's corner moved across the ring toward a confrontation with Golota and the people around him. And we're going to take a look at how all that transpired. Here's a look now at the events that finished the fight. Again, Golota looking to land up top. There's a left below the belt. It's the latest in a series of repeated low blows. And you see Kelly disqualifying Golota. And at this moment, as our overhead camera trained on Riddick in distress, men moved across the ring and began the confrontation with Golota that ultimately led to the riot in the ring and at ringside. A series of skirmishes which still have not been entirely brought under control. Now you can see there the silver-haired Lou Duva, Golota's trainer. And as we mentioned, he's been subject to a series of coronary events within the course of the past couple of years. Duva went down. You heard Roger Bloodworth, the co-trainer, saying that he was concerned about Lou's heart. And since that time, Duva is the one identifiable figure that we have seen taken from Madison Square Garden on a gurney. George Foreman joining me now. Big man, you okay?
Yeah, I'm real good, but I'm sorry about what happened for the people at home. Golota, Bowe, they're really not totally responsible for what happened, but there was a lot of emotions out there, and it caused people to do a lot of things they're going to be sorry about tomorrow.
Was it the scariest situation you've ever seen at a prize fight, George?
I've seen these things happen before, and whenever you got fighters who are prone to hit behind the head and hit below the belt, it always causes situations like this. It just spreads throughout the whole crowd.
And you totally agreed with the disqualification at the moment that it came.
I really like the disqualification, but I'm certain that Golota could whip Bowe. No doubt about it. He could have whipped him. He was whipping him easily. But it should have been a disqualification because that's what can happen if it continues.
Well, let's hope, off the potential that Golota showed tonight, that he can learn to fight without fouling, because there's something there.
He is a great fighter. He doesn't need that in his career at all. Riddick Bowe, he's got to go back to school, and I mean in a big way, about
Riddick
mainly
Bowe's taken
conditioning.
a lot of accumulated punishment, too. Is it too early in his career, George, for that to become a factor in his life?
It can become a factor tonight, as a matter of fact. I'd like to see him come down to my ranch and help me herd some cows for a change.
All right. Thanks very much, George. We appreciate, once again, the protection you provided at ringside. All right. We're not going to be able to get any post-fight interviews in the locker rooms. We had hoped to do that, but for reasons that I'm sure you can understand, those interviews are not going to be available at this time. You'll have to wait until your morning papers to find out what parties on both sides had to say about the aftermath of this riot situation. Myself, I got a 16-year-old daughter in here somewhere, and I'm looking to be sure that she's safe. So right now, let's take you to a look at what's coming up immediately following tonight's coverage of World Championship Boxing. Stay tuned now for...
The volatile Garden crowd was stunned by Golota's success against Bowe. But it was the Pole's inability to control his punches that turned the situation explosive.
First, there was a shock that Golota was so clearly superior to Bowe. Then there's this shock that he's hitting him low, and he keeps hitting him low. What the hell's going on here?
Next time it's a point. Last one.
Wayne Kelly stops and warns him, no point deducted so far. And Wayne Kelly is going to have to give Bowe a timeout. There's a point deducted from each of the three scorecards.
1 point. You got 5
This was a bad low blow foul.
You got 5 minutes.
But when he came to the corner, I said, look, we got this fight won. Do not hit him in the body anymore.
Keep look. You're going to lose another point, man.
And now another low blow.
1 point.
And Golota has lost a second point. And Harold, what comes next?
Jim, the thing that comes next, without question, is a disqualification. I mean, I don't know how much of this Wayne Kelly's going to put up with.
It just seemed unfathomable that he was going to give away this easy victory, but you had to observe the inevitability that it was probably going to happen.
I looked him right in the eyes and I said, Andrew, if you hit him low one more time, it's over. Do you understand that? And he said, yes, I do. Walked out there, hit him low.
That was another low blow. Down goes Bowe, and that's it.
That's it. Great.
It's a disqualification.
It's time to someone that understands that you're going to have to keep the rules in this business.
And now there's a fight in the ring that's been started by some of Bowe's handlers who went after Lou Duva, and somebody's going to get hurt in there.
I remember a guy from Bowe's camp jumping into the mix and started to tomahawk Golota.
I wasn't going in there to hit Golota until I felt like I was assaulted.
And there are more people trying to go in, and security.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. They'll stop it. Don't. Get back. Go back where you'll see the tongue. Get on back.
My microphone got knocked off my head.
Don't do it, son. Don't do
There's
that.
danger all over the place here. This is a very desperate situation. Lou Duva's in trouble. Lou Duva's in trouble on the ring mat.
When he was on the ground, he was getting kicked. He was getting punched. 70-year-old man, he was helpless.
First thing I thought is, oh my God, Lou's died in there, right in the middle of all this craziness in the ring, but he clearly wasn't conscious.
Duva's being taken out on a gurney right now, and we hope that they can get it through the crowd.
And they had about 4 or 5 guys carrying it, and they were turning me over. I said, for Christmas' sake, it's safer to go back into the ring and fight. You guys are killing me over here, you know?
4 minutes after Golota was attacked, Duva was taken to the hospital for observation. The violence in the garden was spreading.
George Foreman trying to be the peacemaker. What are you doing? Hey, what are you doing, guy? What are you going to accomplish in there?
I don't know if it was racial, but it felt sort of tribal. It felt like what I imagine a soccer riot could be like.
People were getting hit over the head with chairs. People were getting stomped on.
It's flaring up again now behind us. Another riot. Guys jumping over
these
chairs.
Riots and fights are breaking out at ringside.
At that point I realized, well, if I stay here, I'm not going to be able to report much longer because this whole setup is bound to come apart. And I just dumped off my headset and ran up one section in Madison Square Garden to deliver a little bit broader perspective on what was going on.
And I've never been involved in a more personally terrifying situation than that one. This ring has been stormed by thugs and hooligans. Obviously, emotions were flowing high on both sides.
You expect that in a matter of a minute or two, the powers that be are going to get it organized and cleared up. Well, there were no powers that be, were there?
It was the desire of Madison Square Garden to provide their own security. And of course, since it's a private arena, unless you're invited in, you can't be there.
In the beginning, there was no security at all. There was a couple of guys in their 60s trying to stop guys in their 20s.
I was actually at home. I was watching TV, and a flash came across the TV that there was a riot going on in Madison Square Garden. So I called my security detail, and I responded.
Some 15 minutes after Golota was attacked, Safer's security force finally arrived.
It was worse than I thought it would be, and my biggest concern was that we had not been notified in a timely manner.
Order was restored some 23 minutes after the fight ended.
Ross Greenberg, producing from the truck, said to me, okay, I think we've covered this. Offer whatever personal comment you want to make, and then take us off the air. Something about that phrase just triggered the recognition. By the way, I've got a teenage daughter in here somewhere. I'm going to go find her. That became the personal comment.
Situation. Myself, I got a 16-year-old daughter in here somewhere, and I'm looking to be sure that she's safe.
This morning, the New York police summoned Bowe's manager to this precinct headquarters a block from the Garden. He was ordered to review the videotapes and identify anybody from Bowe's camp involved in the fighting.
I remember just being so personally angry with Golota that, you know, I went into the ring and screamed at him. 10 seconds later, the ring was full. Now, history has it that I started a riot.
And now the number of arrests are up to 10. The police are reviewing the videotapes with boxing officials and will make further arrests based on an analysis of the videotapes.
In all, 22 people were injured and 14 arrests were made, including Jason Harris, a member of the Bowe security staff. Harris, it turned out, had a record of violence, including the Fan Man incident, when his weapon of choice had been a walkie-talkie. He was given a 5-year suspended sentence.
Oh, I paid my dues. I was in the middle of being investigated for a police department. You know, when I got back, my investigator called me and said, Jason, sorry.
The turmoil overshadowed the fact that despite the victory, Bowe had been battered.